Imagine the scene: a decisive game, a fervent crowd at the Chase Center, final minutes of yet another tense showdown between the Golden State Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The score practically sealed, 102-94 for Minnesota, with only 15 seconds left. On the bench, one of the NBA's most intense personalities, visibly restless, stands up and, in the midst of the tense silence of a timeout, shouts a phrase that echoes through the arena. 5.5. It wasn't a tactical instruction, nor a motivational shout to teammates. It was a number that had nothing to do with the clock or the scoreboard, but rather something off the court. A direct reference to the game's betting line, which predicted a Timberwolves win by 5.5 points. At that moment, the game was exactly within that margin. And who yelled it? Draymond Green, of course. The phrase, said seemingly casually, gained weight instantly. Microphones picked it up. Players heard it. Referees noticed. And the crowd, both in the arena and at home, sensed that this wasn't just another eccentric moment. Something about it felt deeper, more unsettling, almost as if the curtain of the spectacle had been pulled back for a second, revealing a detail no one was supposed to see. The backlash was immediate. The next day, the NBA issued a direct and forceful statement: a $50,000 fine for inappropriate and suggestive conduct, disrespectful to the integrity of officiating and competition. Green's comment wasn't treated as mere provocation. It was seen as an institutional risk. Because to the league, flirting with the world of betting, especially publicly and ambiguously, is playing with fire. But was it just typical provocation from a player who lives on the edge? Or is there more to this episode than meets the eye? This scene raises a question increasingly present in the American sports landscape. To what extent are athletes aware or involved in the logic of betting, which now moves billions? And what does it mean when that logic begins to seep onto the court, not just as a backdrop, but as part of the actual storyline? The NBA, like so many other leagues, has embraced the betting world with enthusiasm. It has signed deals with major platforms, begun displaying real-time odds during broadcasts, and even encourages fans to engage with the games through these numbers. Revenue has skyrocketed, so has engagement, but with the money came the risks. Chief among them, perception. When a player makes a direct reference to the betting line of a game still in progress, the doubt that arises is corrosive. Is what we're watching pure, or is it tainted? When Draymond shouts 5.5 at the top of his lungs, what is he really saying? Is he mocking the situation, trying to provoke someone, or revealing something that should have stayed behind the scenes? The player's track record doesn't help. Known for crossing lines, with both opponents and referees, he has racked up several penalties in the playoffs. And the warning is clear: if he receives 2 more technical fouls, he'll automatically be suspended for a game. In a decisive stage of the championship, that could be fatal for any team. More than just a fine, Green's behavior touches on a sensitive point for the NBA: trust. The public must believe that what they're watching is real, competitive, and fair. Without that trust, the entire spectacle crumbles. And the line between entertainment and integrity has never been thinner than it is now. That may be why the punishment came swiftly and with an almost exemplary tone. The message is clear: any act that raises suspicion about the competitive nature of the game will be confronted, even if it comes from one of the league's most charismatic and controversial figures. But while the storm still swirled around Draymond Green, another drama was gaining traction behind the scenes at the Golden State Warriors. A quiet yet decisive dilemma, and the name at the center of it is Jonathan Kuminga. Within the franchise's corridors, the young forward's situation has moved beyond mere speculation. Once seen as a key piece of the team's future, he now seems increasingly distant from San Francisco. And it's not just about performance. It's about fit, role, and, of course, money. Sources close to the team confirm what's been circulating behind the scenes for weeks. The front office is laying the groundwork for Kuminga's departure, possibly via a strategic trade. And the destination gaining traction in talks is the Brooklyn Nets. The rumored deal is a sign and trade involving Kuminga and Cam Johnson. On one side, a 22-year-old athletic, explosive player with playoff experience and still developing. On the other, a solidified 3-and-D style player with a good long-range shot, defensive awareness, and a mature game. The proposal makes sense. For Brooklyn, it's a chance to acquire a talent with untapped potential. For Golden State, it's a way to gain immediate stability without abandoning its tactical philosophy. But how did we get to this point? The relationship between Kuminga and coach Steve Kerr deteriorated over the course of the season. The most emblematic moment came in the final regular season game against the Clippers. Though uninjured, the player was simply left out of the rotation. A dry, cold, symbolic DNP. When he returned to the rotation in the playoffs, it was clear there was no full trust. He entered in specific moments, amid improvisations forced by injuries, especially Curry's absence in certain games. It wasn't a reintegration, but an emergency measure, and a player with Kuminga's talent and ambition sees that clearly. His camp, knowing his market value, is already projecting a robust contract, something around $35 million per season. But the Warriors' front office is firm in saying they won't go beyond $30 million. A difference that, in financial and strategic terms, weighs heavily when it comes to salary cap and roster planning. Cam Johnson, on the other hand, is already under a 4-year, $100 million contract. He represents exactly the type of player that fits Kerr's system. Doesn't need the ball in his hands, spaces the floor efficiently, defends solidly, and, above all, doesn't bring drama to the locker room. Behind the scenes, Brooklyn's interest is nothing new. Since October, there have been reports that the Nets were ready to make an aggressive offer for Kuminga. Now, with the team having dropped to the 8th spot in the draft lottery, it makes even more sense to target a player ready to contribute, rather than pin all hopes on a rookie. Additionally, the Nets hold something incredibly valuable in today's NBA structure: financial flexibility. According to ESPN, they are the only team with at least $40 million in cap space this offseason. That allows them to not only absorb Kuminga's contract, but also to shape the roster around him without compromising long-term planning. Meanwhile, Golden State, pressured by its own payroll and the ticking clock of the Curry era, knows it can't afford to keep a dissatisfied young talent on the bench. The risk of losing Kuminga for nothing is real, and the time to act is now. If this trade materializes, it will be more than just a market move. It will be a sign of change. A sign that Golden State is starting to write a new chapter, not with future bets, but with solid, established pieces that can ensure competitiveness now. Because behind every roster decision, there's a philosophy in play. The Warriors seems clear: compete today with stability, even if it means giving up a promising future. But is that the right choice? Or is the franchise sacrificing its renewal potential in exchange for immediate security? The possible departure of Jonathan Kuminga, not yet officially confirmed, already carries the symbolic weight of a strategic choice by the franchise. Between patience and pragmatism, the Golden State Warriors seem to be opting for the latter. And this decision does not come out of nowhere. It happens at a moment when the franchise finds itself pressured not only by results on the court, but also by a series of small internal cracks that are beginning to widen. It is not only Kuminga who is at the center of speculation. The episode with Draymond Green revealed something deeper: the feeling that the team's pillars, which supported one of the most remarkable dynasties of the modern NBA era, can no longer sustain the structure with the same solidity as before. There is fatigue, there is wear, and there are signs, ever clearer, that a cycle is, little by little, coming to an end. The league, meanwhile, watches closely, because the Warriors have always been more than just a winning team. They shaped narratives, redefined styles, influenced an entire generation of fans and athletes. The way this core will be dismantled, if it indeed is, impacts not only the franchise but the entire logic of the NBA in the coming years. And it is in this scenario of instability that sports betting becomes more than a backstage issue. It seeps into decisions, attitudes, behaviors. Because when a player shouts a betting line in the middle of a game, it is not by chance. It reflects an environment where the value of a final shot can exceed the limits of the scoreboard. How many points separate a meaningless shot from a play that decides the pockets of millions of bettors? And more importantly, to what extent are the players aware of this? Draymond Green may have provoked without thinking of the consequences, or maybe he thought too much. Either way, his phrase did not go unnoticed. It was analyzed, interpreted, debated. And the NBA, by punishing him swiftly, made it clear that any flirtation with the world of betting will be viewed with suspicion. The concern is legitimate. The line between spectacle and manipulation is thin, even more so when the league's commercial partnerships with betting companies become increasingly lucrative. There is a paradox. While the league profits from the public's engagement through the odds, it must protect its image as a legitimate, fair, and unpredictable competition. And in the middle of this complex scenario, the players become central figures, not just for their performances, but for the messages they convey, the attitudes they take, and the symbols they carry. Green's gesture, intentional or not, became a turning point. Not just for him, but for the entire discussion about ethics in sports. It represents a growing tension between what the game is and what it can become. And perhaps, somewhere between the shout and the fine, lies the key to understanding the league's next moves. Meanwhile, Kuminga waits. His destiny, although still undefined, seems inevitable. And it is not just a matter of numbers or contracts. It is about space. It is about prominence. It is about a young player trying to find his place in a league where talent is not enough. Context, confidence, and freedom to fail and grow are also needed. In San Francisco, he had glimpses, moments when he seemed about to become the new star. But something didn't fit. Whether because of Steve Kerr's tactical style, the dominant presence of veterans, or technical decisions that left him on the sidelines. The DNP episode against the Clippers was the tipping point, a clear warning that, despite his potential, he was not part of the bigger plan. Even in the few times he shone in the playoffs, the impression was that his presence was more a contingency than a strategic choice. Brooklyn, on the other hand, offers a different promise. It is a franchise in transition, searching for identity, rebuilding after the departure of major names, and open to medium-term projects. There, Kuminga might find the space he didn't have in Golden State. He can be tested, explored, put at the center of a new plan. And there is something important about this. Not every player fits into every system. The NBA is as tactical as it is talented. What seems like a mistake on one team can become a success on another. It all depends on the environment, the coach, the teammates, the patience. If the trade involving Cam Johnson is finalized, it will be emblematic. It will represent the exchange of youth for security, explosion for stability, and that, within the context of the current Warriors, is very revealing, because what the management wants now is not a promise, it's a guarantee. They no longer want a development project. They want a reliable piece that fits perfectly into the gears of a system that, although still competitive, already shows signs of aging. Cam Johnson, with his defensive consistency, reliable shooting, and low-profile personality, seems to be exactly that. A gear that works without demanding protagonism. Someone who contributes without standing out. A link that strengthens the structure without requiring major changes. But the cost of this choice is high. It means giving up a developing talent, someone who could, with time and patience, become something much bigger. And that is a bet, as risky as any spread line shouted from the sidelines. The future of Kuminga, of Green, and of Golden State itself now walks through this crossroads. Every step taken by the management points to a team that refuses to start over from scratch, insisting on fighting while the veteran core still has strength. But how long will this core hold out? Draymond is no longer the same. The outbursts, once seen as part of the intensity package, now weigh more heavily. His suspension hangs like a sword over the playoffs. Curry, though still brilliant, deals with the natural wear of years carrying the team on his back. And the shadow of the end approaches, slowly but inevitably. In this scenario, every decision matters. Every trade, every gesture, every phrase let slip in the heat of the game. Everything is a symbol. Everything carries meaning, because what is at stake is not just a player or a season. It is the legacy of an era. And this legacy is being rewritten now, behind the scenes, in the small details, in silent negotiations, and in provocations on the edge of the court. There is an invisible tension lingering around the Golden State Warriors locker room. It's not just the weight of results, criticism, or advancing age. It's something more silent, the awareness that time spares no one, not even the most victorious. The management feels it. The players do too. And no matter how much they try to mask it with diplomatic speeches or controlled media appearances, the discomfort shows in the details. A hesitant rotation, a clipped remark, a longer silence between questions. It is in this environment that the behind-the-scenes become more revealing than any statistic. Behind the cameras, intense meetings take place between agents, executives, and sponsor representatives. The discussion is not only about who stays and who leaves, but about what the team's identity will be from now on. Golden State has already made it clear that they don't want to start a full rebuild. They know what that means. Years away from the spotlight, constant uncertainty, declining ticket sales, diluted national relevance. That's not the plan. What they want, and this desire is almost stubborn, is to rejuvenate without fading away, to compete while renewing, to remain relevant without giving up on titles. It's an almost impossible mission. But that's what defines this moment for the Warriors. The decision about Kuminga, in this sense, is just the most visible face of a bigger transition. He represents all the young players who have passed through or are still passing through the franchise. Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis. Promising talents, but who need more than just talent. They need minutes, confidence, a system that prioritizes them. And that, in the current Golden State, simply doesn't exist. Steve Kerr, despite being a respected coach, has a very specific style. He trusts experience. He prefers to make mistakes with veterans rather than risk it with rookies. This became evident several times throughout the season when young players were left out of the rotation even after good performances. There is a culture there. Victorious, it's true, but it demands a high price from those trying to grow within it. Kuminga ran right into this invisible wall. It wasn't enough to play well. He had to fit perfectly into a logic that was already defined, that left no room for deviations. And the moment he began to question this, even if discreetly, the end of the line began to be drawn. Brooklyn, on the other hand, offers the opposite. A team in search of rebuilding that needs energy, raw talent, someone who can be shaped around a new project. There, Kuminga could find the freedom he never had. What sounds like instability to Golden State might mean potential to the Nets. And this trade scenario is not just a matter of moving pieces. It symbolizes the exchange of a philosophy, of a team that once bet on youth, as it did with Curry, Thompson, and Green back in the day, but today prefers security, consistency, predictability. Cam Johnson is the ideal product of this new mindset. He requires no adaptation. He delivers exactly what he promises. And in an increasingly unpredictable NBA, this type of player has become gold. He won't change the game with dazzling dribbles or spectacular dunks, but he will be in the right place, make the right decision, play the correct coverage, and sometimes that's what wins a game. The question is that enough to sustain a franchise whose identity was built precisely on the unpredictable? Because the Warriors of before, those who surprised the world, were everything but safe. They broke patterns, reinvented the logic of shooting, created a culture that challenged the status quo. And now, by becoming part of that very status quo, they have to deal with the paradox of their own creation. This shift also reflects a broader change in the NBA. The league is at a turning point. The increase in partnerships with betting companies, the obsession with statistics, the weight of social media and broadcast contracts have put all teams under constant pressure to deliver immediate results, and that changes everything. Coaches change their strategies based on data that indicate which plays are more likely to succeed. Players adjust their styles to improve efficiency. even if it means giving up creativity. And franchises, pressured by sponsors and investors, make decisions that are less emotional and more mathematical. Within this context, the episode with Draymond Green is not an isolated accident. It is the symptom, the reflection of a culture in transformation, where every detail, every offhand phrase can have profound impacts. When he shouted 5.5 toward the opposing bench, he wasn't just provoking, he was verbalizing what has already become part of the collective consciousness of modern sport. The game is no longer just about winning or losing. It's also about covering the line, about odds, about the spread, about everything that decades ago was taboo, and today is headline news. And that is frightening, because if a player begins to think about the impact of a shot on betting markets, to what extent does the outcome of a game remain authentic? The NBA tries to maintain balance. It invests heavily in integrity programs, monitors behavior patterns, fines quickly those who cross the line. But it knows it is dealing with something much bigger, the culture of quick money, speculation, the spectacle that never stops. The Warriors are embedded in this board, and every decision they make, whether the trade of Kuminga, the tolerance toward Green, or the choice of Cam Johnson, is analyzed not only from a sports perspective, but also financial, symbolic, and commercial. Because today, a basketball team is not just a team, it is a brand, an asset, a content ecosystem, and it needs to be in motion all the time. The question that remains, then, is, what does this new version of the Warriors want to be? A team that honors its past and bets on an uncertain future with young promises, or an organization that maximizes its competitiveness today, even if that means sacrificing part of its soul? For now, the answer seems to lean toward the second path. But time will tell if this choice was wise, or if, by trying to prolong a cycle, the franchise only postponed the inevitable. What is certain is that, with every game, every behind-the-scenes movement, the story of the Warriors is being rewritten. And, deep down, that is what makes this moment so fascinating. Because this is not just about basketball, it is about identity, about legacy, about how a team decides to say goodbye, or to start over. Kai returned to the court with an impressive performance, reaffirming his status as one of the most promising talents in Asian basketball. In a recent game against Kyoto, he delivered a spectacular performance, scoring 20 points, grabbing 4 rebounds, and dishing out 3 assists. These numbers not only stand out in the stats, but also showcase the constant evolution of a player who becomes more complete with each game. From the first minute, it was clear he was ready to shine. Combining height, agility, and technical skills, he dominated the paint, leaving opposing defenders without answers. His mid-range shots were sharp, a reflection of the continuous effort he dedicates to improving his game. Moreover, his court vision became evident in decisive moments, distributing assists and connecting his teammates in important plays. When the game reached its most tense moments, Kai took responsibility, showing leadership and composure. In the third quarter, he made a memorable play by dribbling past 2 defenders, converting a crucial basket, and hitting the free throw after being fouled. Plays like this not only excite the crowd, but also highlight his ability to perform under pressure, a key trait for any player with ambitions of reaching the NBA. His fans have plenty of reasons to be excited. Kai is about to hit historic milestones in the B-League. With just 76 points remaining to reach 1,000 career points, he is approaching a select group of players known for their offensive consistency. Additionally, he has already surpassed 500 rebounds, establishing himself as a dominant presence in the paint on both offense and defense. He not only protects the painted area with authority, but also creates crucial second-chance opportunities for his team. Another important achievement is nearing. He is just 4 assists away from reaching 100 assists in the league. This reinforces his ability to create opportunities and involve his teammates in strategic plays. These numbers directly reflect the impact Kai brings to the court. His combination of imposing physicality, technical ability, and tactical intelligence makes him one of the most complete players in the league. Every point, rebound, and assist brings him closer not only to records but also to the dream of playing in the NBA. His performance has caught the attention of analysts and commentators who already consider him a player capable of raising the competitive level of the B-League. Comparisons with great past big men are starting to emerge, highlighting his potential to leave a legacy in international basketball. But for Kai, more than statistics or records, the important thing is to keep evolving and making his mark in every game. Kai Sotto's future has been one of the most debated topics among fans and experts, and one of the most mentioned destinations for him in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors. The franchise's fans have already started a campaign on social media asking for his signing, believing he could be the missing piece to strengthen the team. The Warriors are known for their fast and dynamic style of play, with an emphasis on long-distance shooting and constant movement. However, one of the team's weak points has been the lack of a dominant presence in the paint, someone who can protect the defensive area, grab rebounds, and bring balance to the team. Kai fits exactly that profile. His impressive height and game-reading ability are characteristics that could transform the Warriors' performance. Moreover, his international experience, facing different styles of basketball around the world, makes him an interesting prospect for a franchise looking to refresh its roster without sacrificing competitiveness. For the Warriors, signing Kai would represent a low-risk, high-potential move. He has already demonstrated his ability to contribute both defensively and offensively, being an efficient finisher near the basket and constantly improving his mid-range shot. Combining this with his competitive mindset and dedication to improvement, he would fit well into the team's system. The fans are excited about this possibility, knowing that players with Kai's skill set and potential are rare. For many, he could be exactly what the team needs to get back to competing for the top spot in the NBA. If you like the content, leave a like to support the channel and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything about the Warriors. Thanks, and see you in the next video.